Want to support the show? There are several ways to do that. One is to give us a 5-star rating to help people find us. Another is to become a patron of our show. We also have a store where we have amazing merch designed by Ashton Green and Coda. Follow the link in the description below and enjoy the episode. Hi, welcome to the Dartarian Show. I'm Alexander Dartarian.
And I'm Dominic Sykes.
And today we're going to be talking about the most infamous pirate of all time. No, not Jack Sparrow. Blackbeard.
Blackbeard.
Although Jack Sparrow is really good.
Yeah.
Anyways, we've talked about a lot of pirates previously. Mm-hmm. We've talked about Henry Avery, the Pirate King.
Yep.
And then we've also done an episode on pirates.
In general, yeah.
Yeah, in general. But we're going to do a deep dive into Blackbeard's life.
Yeah, he's always been like one of the first people that come to mind when somebody says pirate, you know. Mm-hmm. Even not necessarily, you know, the stories about him so much as his look.
Yeah.
You know.
It said he used theatricality and piracy, mm-hmm. which was really cool. One of the most feared and infamous pirates to sail the seven seas, even though he was only active for a year and a half that we know of.
It's a pretty short amount of time to get your reputation as big as his was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there was actually pirates that...
And still not know that much about him, too. Yeah. So not only did he get his reputation way up in just a year and a half, but... that's pretty much all it was, is rumors and speculation, because of how much mystery was around, you know, the way he did things. People actually believed, you know, that he was, you know, sold his soul to the devil or whatever. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he would play to that.
Yeah. And a lot of the information that we get about pirates and Blackbeard in general comes from Treasure Island,
right?
A book. And, a lot of people don't know this, but Black Sails, the TV show, is based off of Treasure Island.
Oh, really?
Yes. So Captain Flint and Long John Silver are not real pirates.
No, man.
Yeah, which kind of sucks. It's a good joke. Yeah. But let's go back and talk about where it all started. Who was Blackbeard really? That's tough to say. A lot isn't known about Blackbeard before he became known as Blackbeard. So a lot of what we're going to be saying is most likely... probably.
Hearsay.
Allegedly. Yeah. Hearsay. So before we start, what do you know about Blackbeard? Just coming in, like not doing any research, because you didn't do any research for this, did you?
No, I didn't personally, no.
So what do you know about Blackbeard?
You know, just what I've read or seen in TV shows, or, you know, even played in some games, you know, like Assassin's Creed, Black Flag, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And, you know, obviously those are, you know, not real, but
yeah,
at the same time, you know, it does kind of go into some of his legends, and you know, we know what his ship was. I know, like, it was the Anne, right? The Anne, what was it called?
No, the Queen's Anne's Revenge was in Treasure Island.
Was it
really?
So that's not real either?
That's not what it's really named.
Oh, okay.
So we'll find out what it's named.
All right, let's hear it.
Even his name is in dispute. Numerous names have been put forth to what his name actually was. One legend suggests his last name was Drummond, and he was Scottish. But reports from survivors of his piracy do not say anything about a Scottish accent, so that's probably not true. So
I can see how people would think that, though. I mean, like Ian McShane, the way he portrays him, he almost has a Scottish accent to the way he talks,
But like I said, there was a lot of survivors from Blackbeard, because when they saw Blackbeard coming, they most of the time surrendered.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it later.
Nobody's ever said anything about him having a Scottish accent.
That he was well-educated. We know he was well-educated because he spoke proper.
Right.
But he also didn't have a Scottish accent. So.
Yeah. And we already talked about how that pirate accent that we, you know, hear all the time is not real either.
It's not real either. All right. His name may have been Edward Thatch, or Tatch, because that's what it was written in court documents of his captured compatriots. Most unlikely, his name was a pseudonym, but for our show's purpose, we'll be referring to him by his most popular name besides Blackbeard. Do you know what it is?
Teach, right?
Yep. Edward Teach.
Yeah.
All right. So that being said, Edward Teach was most unlikely born in Bristol around the 1680s and was raised in Redcliffe, a subsection of Bristol. Now, we know nothing about his childhood, but we do know a legend about his childhood. It's told around Bristol. Now, the reason why everybody thinks that he's Scottish as well is because if he was a sailor, and as accomplished sailor as Blackbeard was, that we absolutely know that he was an accomplished sailor. Mm-hmm. To be a captain of a pirate ship, you kind of have to.
Yeah.
You basically, it's port cities.
Right.
Right? So they think he grew up in a port city. Legend goes that Edward Teach's father was a privateer in the 1690s. So his mother had married another man. His stepfather was a mean old man, beating Edward most of his life. At 16, Edward had had enough and returned the beatings his stepfather had given him all those years. Blackbeard had nearly beat him to death before fleeing to the port and becoming cabin boy in 1697 on a merchant ship. But no evidence of anything happening like this around this time was reported, so it's probably not true.
Yeah, people just make up backstories if they don't have any to...
It's a huge legend in Bristol. That's why a lot of people think that he came from Bristol.
Right.
It's because there's a legend.
Yeah.
But like you said, when stuff happens, legends come with it.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, well, Blackbeard was famous, so let me put a legend out there.
Yeah.
I was like, he probably came from here.
We have conspiracy theories now for, like, recent things, so you can imagine how, you know, stories come about years and years in the past. You know, like... I'm sure in 100 to 200 years, people will be thinking that 2020, was
a hoax,
a legend, or something that didn't actually happen, or something like that.
Well, there's still people that think that stuff that happened a few years ago is a hoax now.
Yeah.
So you can only imagine a couple hundred years.
So. It's hard to tell anymore.
It really is, especially with the stuff getting so like deep fake and everything.
Yeah.
So you have no idea who's really saying what. We don't really know how Edward Teach made it to the Caribbean, but we have a pretty good idea. Now, we will be talking about one of the darkest parts of human history, slavery. Mm-hmm. But it is important to Blackbeard's story, so it must be talked about. All right.
Right, so that's another thing I had heard about Blackbeard, was that he would free slaves, and then they would give them the choice to join his crew. Like he had
yes and no.
A bunch of his crew were like freed slaves.
Yes, but yes to that statement, yes and no.
Okay.
Because with pirates, when they captured a slave ship, which usually were faster and they could hold, the reason they loved slave ships so much is because, one, potential crew members,
right,
and also slaves were really good currency, which is horrible to say, but they were.
Yeah, they would basically take the cargo and sell it just like it was any other.
Yeah, they would sell them if they could get to a port like Charleston, South Carolina, and sell the slaves. They would.
Has there ever been an instance? I don't know if we talked about this in our pirate episode. Now this might be going off track a little bit, but is there an instance where a pirate crew has used the slaves' help to take over a ship? Like say that they're going to try and take a ship that's bigger than them. I think this was like on an episode of Black Flag or something like that. But
Black Sails, yeah.
Black Sails, yeah. They
I don't know.
They basically send like one person in there to help the slaves free themselves, and then the slaves have like a revolt, and then they swing in with a smaller force, and they kind of sandwich them between the.
I would think that would be just for the show.
Yeah, so
because
I didn't know if that's something that actually they did, or
because they didn't know whether they're getting freed or not.
I guess that's
and
true.
A lot of them didn't speak English. Like they didn't speak English, so I don't know. I think it was just for dramatic show effect and stuff. Now, Blackbeard was most than likely a cabin boy on a merchant ship, and was quickly promoted to a sailor. But let's talk about how merchant ships operated in this time to get a better understanding of how life was for a sailor at this time. Because it is important to understand the life of a sailor. And I'm not talking about a pirate. I'm talking about a sailor.
Right.
So there's a different distinction. Life of a sailor was very harsh and cruel at this time, with officers and captains dealing out horrific punishments for even the smallest crimes.
Flogging.
Yep. Sailors would be tied to a mast while being tarred and feathered.
Ouch.
key hauled, which is where you're thrown overboard and dragged round the underneath of the ship.
Can you imagine the barnacles?
Yeah, they tear you. They tear you apart. Most of the time, you did not survive key hauling.
Didn't the Vikings do that too?
Yes.
Thought so. Well, I guess the Vikings were kind of pirates and sailors in their own right.
Flogging, which was the most common, with the whole crew to watch the sailor who would beat them with a rope end, a whip, or the infamous cat of nine tails.
Yeah.
So, and most famous use of cat of the nine tails is with Jesus,
Right.
when they beat him and stuff. There is one story of a sailor who had overslept their watch, and a captain beat him so bad in his head, he was bleeding profusely. He died of blood loss while on watch.
Oh my God.
So he overslept watch, went down into the cabin,
And then,
beat him so bad with, can't remember what it was,
yeah,
but made him bleed out and then put him out there in the rain, and then he died.
he died. God.
Pirates who were captured often said that the treatment they received while sailing on merchant ships was the reason they became pirates in the first place.
Okay. I'd be a pirate too if I was getting treated like that.
Absolutely. That's bullshit. The government mostly sided with the captains, stating that a captain and a crew's relationship is that of a parent and a child. You still go to jail for beating your child. Like,
For real.
well, probably not back at them days, but yeah. So, not only were the punishments bad, the food was poor as well, often giving them dysentery and scurvy.
Scurvy.
Yeah, I know. Now, how merchant ships worked they would leave England with goods to go to the African continent, trade with the warring tribes for African slaves. Then they would transport the African slaves to the Caribbean for trade for sugarcane, or to the colonies for tobacco and rice. Then they would return to England to repeat the process.
Right.
So basically, when they go to the African continent, right, with the goods from England, they use that to trade with warring tribes, which was a lot of the times where we got the African slaves at this time.
Right.
I'm not saying that's been the whole time. That's how it is. But
Right.
usually it's warring tribes capture the warriors, and then they bring them over.
Yeah.
So that's pay for the sailors was one of the lowest paying jobs at the time.
Yeah.
Which is, why would you do it?
Yeah. Really.
It's like you get all this bad
The life of a
treatment.
pirate sounds more and more appealing every day.
Yeah. Blackbeard probably would have worked on a slave ship, which would have taken him to the Caribbean, and then he would have departed in Port Royal,
Right.
which was not uncommon. That happened all the time.
Yeah.
This is when he would have become a privateer, along with about 30,000 other sailors.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of sailors back then.
Golden age of piracy.
Yeah. Now, during the several naval wars between England, Spain, and France, the call for privateers was high.
Right.
Blackbeard probably became a privateer in 1708 until about 1713, 1714. That's when the privateers ended.
Right.
A privateer ship would be presented by what is called a letter of marque, which is a paper saying that they're basically legal pirates.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any ship a privateer attacks and returns to its country's ports would receive 25% of the profit from auction, which was a lot more than they would ever make on a merchant ship.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. After the end of the wars, the privateers were out of a job, and 6,000 sailors, including Blackbeard, were out of a job and stuck in the Caribbean.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So during the time of war, being a privateer was, I think they called them buccaneers, is what they're technically called in the Caribbean. But basically, they would attack warring ships. Like if you're on England side, you attack Spain or France.
Yeah.
If you're on Spain, but vice versa,
Right.
kind of thing. So basically, you would capture the ship, take it back to your country's port or the port that's closest to you.
And then you get a percentage of the
Yeah,
profit.
you get 25% of because they auction the goods,
Yeah.
the gold, and the ship. So, and a lot of times the ships were given to other privateers
Yeah.
or sold to the other privateers so they could do
those
it.
ships
Yeah.
to keep doing what they were doing.
Absolutely. Like I said, it's very it was a very lucrative business at this time.
Yeah.
In 1715, Blackbeard became a pirate under the command of Benjamin Hornigold on his ship, the Ranger.
All right.
After serving under Hornigold for a year, he was given his own ship, the Revenge. So it wasn't Queen's Anne's
Revenge.
Revenge.
Queen's Anne's, just the Revenge.
The Revenge, yes.
Okay.
Now, with Blackbeard sailing under, this is when we actually know what he did. Mm-hmm. When he became friends with Benjamin Hornigold, mm-hmm. and then a lot of times you don't even know if he served under him, but you would assume he would,
right? Because
why would he? I mean, Benjamin Hornigold was a well-respected pirate for the Caribbean. Yeah. But he's not just going to give a ship to anybody.
Right.
So
he would have had to have earned his respect, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Now, Benjamin Hornigold was, like I said, one of the best respected person. But as we said in the other Pirates episodes, right, this is a democracy. Mm-hmm. It's not like a merchant ship where the captain can get away with murder, basically.
Right.
It is all about democracy, and it's literally the only time true democracy has ever been pretty much in existence. Mm. The democracy we have in this country is not real democracy. So now when a captain becomes a captain, he has to basically, what keeps him a captain is jobs.
Yeah.
He has to attack jobs. Now, Benjamin Hornigold was a different person. Mm. He would only attack French and Spanish ships.
Right.
Because he was English.
Which is probably why he was...
Yeah, he let too many English ships go by.
Yeah.
So he was voted not captain anymore.
Oh, man.
Yeah. He went back to Nassau,
yeah.
And pretty much became a almost pirate king. So Henry Avery was considered the pirate king because he was the only pirate in any history to retire.
Right.
Everyone else was captured.
Yeah.
So, or pardoned, whatever. Mm-hmm. He got the treasure and got away, is what I'm saying. So he was the only pirate to ever do that. As we're going to find out later, that Blackbeard didn't get away.
Yeah.
So with 6,000 sailors out of a job, a lot of them did turn to piracy. Not all of them did, but a lot of them did. Mm-hmm. But they didn't have a ship. So basically, when pirates took ships, they would give the ships to another person, and then he would go get a crew.
Yeah.
Now, Port Royal the Caribbean was not owned by any country.
Right.
In the late 1600s. After the wars, England pretty much took ownership of them. Mm-hmm. So Port Royal turned into an English country, which at that time, before that time, it was a piracy. It was like a free pirate port, basically. Yeah. So they had to move somewhere else. So Blackbeard, Benjamin Hornigold, Charles Vane, they all took spots, or took part into making Nassau a pirate port.
Got it.
Which I think it's called New Providence now.
Freeport.
Either New Providence or something.
I'm not sure.
But at this time, Tortuga was...
That means turtle in Spanish?
Yeah. It was supposed to be a free port for pirates,
right?
But it wasn't anymore.
Oh. Well, that sucks.
Yeah, so for right now, Blackbeard's just starting. He hasn't done anything like that, anything to speak of that would cause him infamy. Mm-hmm. Now, 1716 is when he starts his career.
Got it.
So a year and a half from then is when his downfall comes.
Right. So we get to basically see what led up to that.
Absolutely. And we will talk about that in a second. Hold on. Now, let's go back, right? Now, this is important to understand. Mm. One of the theories of Blackbeard is that he grew up with another famous person from Bristol.
Who?
Wood Rogers.
Who?
Wood Rogers.
Wood Rogers?
Yeah, like Wood.
Right.
Now, Wood Rogers would become famous because he would become governor of Jamaica.
Okay.
Okay. So he would, and at that time when Wood Rogers became a governor in Jamaica, was near the end of Blackbeard's career.
Yeah.
And he was offering pardons.
Okay.
Which Benjamin Hornigold took. He took a pardon.
Right.
Blackbeard didn't. Not from Jamaica. And they think, because he grew up with Wood Rogers, he would recognize Blackbeard and know who he truly was.
Okay. So that's why he didn't take the pardon, or
Yeah, he did not take the pardon from in Jamaica
because he didn't want to get recognized.
Yeah, they think that he knew his true identity.
I mean, would it really have been that bad though? I mean, I can't see how that would have affected things too much. Maybe taking some of the mystery out of him, but
That, and it also, they think that maybe he came from a prominent family, and it would have been an embarrassment.
Oh, okay.
But that's not likely either, because Blackbeard's not the kind of person that would care all about that. I think it was more he wasn't done pirating at that time.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
But as we said, the English did take ownership of the Caribbean in the 1670s.
Right.
So by the time he had already gotten there, it was English land.
Yeah.
The average age of pirates, you want to take a guess what the average age was?
I'd say about 30 to 40.
20s.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that makes sense.
Average age was 20s, and Blackbeard was 10 years their senior.
So he's in his 30s.
Yeah, he was in his 30s. So
when I picture pirates, I picture like middle-aged dudes,
Yeah, absolutely.
At least the captains.
Well, the life expectancy was like 40s, 50s.
Yeah.
And for a pirate, it was even less.
Yeah.
It was in 20s and 30s. Now, basically, with the pirates, you were right somewhat with the slaves. When they captured a slave ship, they took the slaves. And Blackbeard, as you know, crew was the majority of them. By the end of Blackbeard's career, nearly 50% of Blackbeard's crew was the African slaves that he had rescued. So over 50%.
That's neat.
So, but the reason we don't know the exact number of African slave pirates is because when they were captured and the rest of the crew were hanged, they were stripped, beaten, and sold back into slavery.
Oh my God.
They weren't seen as humans. They were seen as property.
Right.
So, like I said, it's a dark part of history, but we got to talk about it.
Yeah.
Now, are you familiar with the Pirates Code?
I mean, I don't know what it is. I know what it is, but I don't know what it entails, if that makes sense. So, like, I know that they had a code, but I didn't know specifically what that code is.
Yeah, the Pirate Code it's not... When Barbosa and Pirates of the Caribbean says it's more of a guideline, he was correct.
So it's kind of like etiquette.
Kind of.
More than like the strict moral code of, like, say, a knight or something like that, where they had, like, a code that they had to strictly follow. You know what I'm saying?
They're called a Pirates Code, a Pirate Articles, but basically it was called the Bill of Rights,
right?
According to the pirates. And there was 11, to be exact. So I was going to tell you a little bit about them.
All right.
Basically, with the Pirate Code, the Pirates Code is a Portuguese buccaneer code that they had in the 1660s during the war. Basically, it was to keep them not turning into merchant ships.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So from basically what they hated,
absolutely,
they want to turn into what they hated.
Do you know who Bartholomew Roberts is? Who he is?
The name sounds familiar, but
Captain Roberts.
No, I'm not sure.
Okay. Anyways, here is the Bill of Rights for pirates, and it's important to talk about because this would have been followed by Blackbeard's crew and himself.
Right.
1. Every man has a vote in affairs of moment, has equal title to the fresh provisions or strong liquors at any time seized, and may use them at pleasure.
Right.
Unless a scarcity, not an uncommon thing among them,
Right.
makes it necessary for the good of all to vote a retrenchment. So basically,
out if they need
the spoils go to everyone equally.
Yeah.
2. Every man is to be called fairly in turn by list on board of prizes because, everyone gets their proper share.
Yeah.
There were, on these occasions, allowed to shift of clothes, but if they defrauded the company to the value of $1 in a plate, jewels, or money, marooning would be their punishment. Now, marooning is...
Yeah, leaving them on
it's basically leaving them on a deserted island. It sucks. But at least you have a slight chance of getting rescued.
Yeah.
If the robbery was only to betwixt one another, that they contented themselves with slitting the ears and nose of them, that was guilty.
Wow.
Yeah. And set him ashore in an uninhabited place.
Oh, so they got the extra bit of...
Yeah.
They got the ears and the nose clipped.
Yeah. So basically, if he did it on purpose to, I guess, because he didn't like that person.
Yeah. The punishment would be worse.
Yeah. Your nose and ears get taken off, and then you still get the dessert on the place. 3. No person to game at cards or dice for money. So no gambling.
Really?
Yeah. Because basically, if someone's really good, right?
Yeah.
They took all their money.
Yeah.
And then they just killed you. So it's to keep people from killing each other, basically.
Yeah.
4. The lights and candles to be put out at 8 o'clock at night. If any of the crew after that still, remained inclined to drinking, they'd have to do it on the open deck in the dark.
Well, I mean, I guess that's...
So it was lights out. Yeah, it was lights out, but it wasn't lights out for everyone.
Yeah.
5. To keep their peace, pistols and cutlass clean and fit for service.
Yeah.
So they always had to be ready for a fight, basically. 6. No boy or woman to be allowed amongst them. If any man were to be found seducing any of the latter sex and carried her to sea, disguised, he was to suffer death.
Wow. What about the woman?
Both of them, yeah.
Wow, that's messed up.
Yep. So basically, if you were caught sneaking a woman onto the ship dressed like a man, it was instant death.
Yeah.
They didn't question it. They killed you both.
That's messed up.
7. To desert the ship or their quarters in battle was punishable by death or marooning.
Yeah.
So you died a coward's death, basically.
Mm-hmm. Take loyalty seriously, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 8. No striking one another on board, but every man's quarrels to be ended on shore at sword and pistol. So basically duels.
Yeah, but make sure you don't do it on the ship.
No, you have to do it. They take you to a shore. You line up. It's usually either the captain or the quartermaster that goes with you. I think it's the quartermaster because that's pretty much his job is to keep peace on the ship. And he would say, take 10 steps, turn around, shoot. You get one shot, and then if they miss, it's sword fight, but only to first blood, not to death.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yep. 9. No man to talk of breaking up their way of living till each had shared 1,000 pounds. So you weren't allowed to retire until you had 1,000 pounds.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. If in order to this, any man should lose a limb or become crippled in their service, he was given $800 out of the public stock, and for lesser hurts, it was proportionate. Yeah, it was health insurance
or what do they call it? Workers' comp.
Yeah, workman's comp. Yep. 10. The captain and quartermaster to receive 2 shares of a prize. The master, the boatswain, and the gunner 1 share, and a half to other officers 1 1/4.
Oh, it's not really equal share then, is it?
Well, it's a job, like I said.
Yeah, I know, but
it's pretty much like the CEO gets paid more than
I know.
than the warehouse worker. It's how it is. 11. The musicians to have rest on the Sabbath day, but the other 6 days and nights none without special favor. So if you had an instrument and you were a musician, you had to play
6 days of the week,
Monday through Saturday, but Sunday you could rest.
That they take that so seriously, don't they?
Yeah.
Their music.
That's the most common one. That's Bartholomew Roberts, but there are other articles from other pirates.
So they might have had like different bills of rights between different.
Yeah, they did.
Crews and stuff, or variations of it. It's probably just something kind of that jumping off point, and then they kind of just adjusted to fit their crew's needs or whatever.
They did. And Bartholomew Roberts was probably he wasn't as famous as Blackbeard, but he was pretty famous.
Yeah.
So after he took control of the ship, the Revenge, the legend of Blackbeard began. And that's where we'll pick up on part 2 of the Blackbeard.
Got me on a cliffhanger here.
Yeah, man.
Want to get to the good stuff.
All right. Next episode, we will be talking about his history of piracy and what he was the most famous for, with pretty much people thinking he was the devil.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you guys for listening. We will talk to you next week, and we'll finish up this episode. There's only two more episodes.
Right.
For the season. It's really thing. And we actually got a message from a fan. I wanted to give him a shout out real quick. He sent us a book about urban legends in Texas.
Yes.
So Rudy Rodriguez Jr.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, man. We appreciate that, and we're definitely going to get that book.
Yeah, like we've always said, any kind of advice, tips, if you guys have legends or things that you guys want us to talk about, always let us know, and we'll.
Yeah, we'd love to circle back to the states that we have done already.
Yeah.
There's we did 8 or 10 of those, and I didn't see any of those in the book he sent us.
Right. Yeah, and that's
I was like.
Cool too. That's why I want to hear from people from those states specifically.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's even urban legends in specific suburban towns and stuff like that where it's it's only specific to that area.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate that, Rudy, and thank you for listening. It is greatly appreciated. But we only have a few episodes left in the season, and it will be I think it's like 2 or 3 more.
Right.
So it's not long before the end of the season. So appreciate you guys listening, and follow that link below to all of our goodness. And we'll see you next week for Blackbeard Part 2.